What's going on, gamers? Hopefully, y'all are enjoying Final Fantasy 16 right now. I got the platinum on that when that came out day one on PlayStation 5. Love that game. That was the 14 team that did that. If y'all didn't know, the other main Final Fantasy team, Tetsuya Nomura's team, they do the 7 remakes. So that's what they're doing. And I don't know what team is working on Final Fantasy 9 remake, but that's around the corner. But in this video, there's a lot to talk about. One, proving PlayStation fanboys wrong and exposing how Sony, if it was up to them, this would not be on Xbox right now. And I proved that to people months ago and how I was right. We do that a lot over here, people, start to realize. So yeah, 7 Remake is coming, Integrate is coming for 2025. Obviously, that's the 7 version with the DLC included, which is the right thing to do. But here's the video I was talking about. Getting right here at 2:32, I start explaining things. Here we're going to see Sony wanted that permanently locked off, but Square was like, we're not going to be able to do that because we're not making the money we want to make. We can't do it anymore. They initially wanted to do that, but then they canceled it and realized I'd rather take the Microsoft paycheck, whatever sales I can get on there, and the sales that I'm going to get on Nintendo platform and PC, worldwide. So yeah, they're going to make way more money doing that. And they made the right decision. So Square said they're done with that. And there was fanboys that couldn't handle it, but it was like, but it's not like Sony was developing those games anyway. They were just locking them away. They weren't their IPs. They were shining on their platform, but they're not their IPs. So let's get into this. Like, comment, subscribe, let me know what y'all think. We got a lot to talk about here. All of that is just some things Sony was trying to do, like right here, watch the post. This was like a little bit over a year ago. Sony has secured the Final Fantasy VII trilogy as a console exclusive. This was before Square decided that they can't do that anymore. Just right there, we're gonna get to some more stuff in there. So you see, they wanted that deal. They wanted to money hat the entire trilogy, specifically to push it on their consoles. Like they're about to go back to the PS1 days, you know what I mean? But they woke up real quick. This was before all the cancels too. Things came crashing down hard for them. A lot of karma this year. We see that. So yeah, that wasn't able to happen. This is why we would need to go down memory lane so we can see how we got to here right now. And also just to talk about some things with Final Fantasy 16 on Xbox and 7, on the way, they're literally only missing one game. Now, I need to get Rebirth. We'll get to that in a second, but I just kind of wanted to highlight that. Wouldn't the first two being exclusive essentially be a confirmation? I can't imagine a third installment of a trilogy being multi-platform if the first two are exclusive. How'd that turn out? There's a lot of people that wanted this, by the way. 363, 291, 657, but a lot more than that, obviously, too. Icon Era is another example, because they hit on Xbox. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth director Hamaguchi says, a lot of work on part 3 is done, but the development challenge will be implementing world travel in the Highwind. The trilogy is also confirmed to be a PlayStation console exclusive. This was back in March 6, 2024. Yeah, they've been working on it. So that'll probably be out before the end of the gen or somewhere around there. It's coming. And now Square said the other day, you want to know what's so interesting? Just think about how things change here. Definitely when you see that other companies may have more power. Sony didn't have the power like they did before. Watch this. Nintendo Switch 2, Final Fantasy 7 Trilogy. Square Enix plans to release the entire Final Fantasy Remake trilogy on the Nintendo Switch 2. My Nintendo news report that Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate will be released on the Switch 2 this winter. It's going to be the same as Xbox. You know what I mean for that. And the entire trilogy is planned to be brought to both the Switch 2 and the Series XS. To confirm that to you guys, it's also coming to Xbox as well. Square's going to do that. Specifically, Square Enix confirms that Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate, which includes the additional episode intermission story, will be coming to the Switch 2. The entire trilogy, including the first game, 7 Remake, and sequel, and Rebirth, is planned to be released on the platform. A specific release date for the third entry in the trilogy has not yet been announced. So that securing did not work out. Not because Sony said so, and I'll go over there, no, because Square said so. So yeah, Sony didn't give them the metrics that they wanted. And we got that answer right there. So there's no argument with that anymore. 16 is coming to Switch 2 as well. They're just working on it. Dev kits. But things changed very quick after that. And that was a Square Enix decision. You think Sony made that decision? No. Like I was just saying, Tides have changed hugely since that time, right? Going over here. As of now, Final Fantasy 16 is not coming to Xbox as part of a PS5 exclusive deal. This was a little bit later on during that year. They wanted to money hat that permanently too. I'm just, you know what we do here. You know, we got to do this. And that's telling you that, yeah. But Square, once again, they started to realize things. These are things that Sony had going on. Like I said, you don't know until it becomes public. And then there's some things that just don't ever. Here. However, Square Enix has confirmed plans to eventually bring the game to Xbox, though no specific release date has been announced, meaning it is likely to be ported to Xbox sometimes in the future, potentially in 2025. Obviously, this was said in 2024. You know what I mean? But if it was up to Sony, they would keep it there. So that was right, potentially in 2025. Here we are, June 9th, released a few days ago, and it's there. And 7 Remake is in progress. This is why wouldn't they? You know what I mean? Um, and Ponies, sit down. This was Icon era, right? Square Enix confirms goal to bring Final Fantasy 16 to Xbox. Look at what they have to say about this. This is like pony bot land, by the way. So it won't be out till at least mid 2025 from the sounds of what. Wouldn't be surprised if Square are waiting for a Game Pass offer because they know the game will hardly sell on Xbox. I just think it will be compromised by Series S. It pushed PlayStation hard, has high PC specs, but there it is again with the Series S. They've learned a lot since then. Also, barely anyone on PC touched this unless it goes into Game Pass. How many on Xbox will even buy it? Well, it's not on Game Pass. They're going for the sales first, then they're going to do that, then take the paycheck. That's the intelligent thing to do. They're all wrong. But the funny thing about that statement is that it's going to be going to the Switch too. Yeah, they'll be using NVIDIA systems, which are better, but it's can run on the Series S because they're going to get it to run on Switch too. And they've learned a lot since then. That was yeah, I mean, because they're pretty much almost equal in certain ways. Where Nintendo only has that advantage because they have more RAM, newer technology, and the DLSS systems. But in raw performance, no. They're not too far from each other because Nintendo has newer technology, so that NVIDIA technology works very well together for what they have. But Series S still has better rasterization stats and the GPU, um, but not by that much. The biggest difference between a Series S and the Switch is the CPU difference. Other than that, they're not that much different. And it's a handheld device. You know what I mean? I prefer comparing it to other handhelds, but even then, there's no hybrid like it. So kind of like in its own class, to be realistic. The game wasn't even finished fully. The Xbox version is almost a waste of time. No. Unfortunately, it's not going to change the sales of the game. Boy, it's going to be fun to see them trying to run it on the Series S. But this is just Icon era. This is nothing new to me, right? We're going to get back to this in a second. But let's go down and read this. As I said, credible leaker Nathan. So Nathan Haight was accurate about that. I knew this was coming too because I had some internal documents I was looking at. I was like, yeah, this is happening. I was telling people about that as well too. Obviously, like I said, fanboys are the only ones that ever get enough feelings about another game going to another platform, not in-house. Not like Sony's in-house was going there. They don't own Final Fantasy. You know what I mean? That's Square Enix publishing and development. And Nintendo was the first one in the world to publish Final Fantasy. It grew up off of them. So who does Sony think they are? They think they just log things like they run the series, right? Let's look at the first Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy 1, NES. This is where it started, y'all, with Nintendo in the 80s. Nintendo published on NES and Game Boy Advance. This was the first time it ever published. Then later on, Square got rights to publish for everything else. But where it started at NES and Game Boy Advance, it was right here. Nintendo, published by them. So they came in together. There was no Enix here too, and Soft came before them, who is what Nintendo now called Monolith Soft. You got to know about that. Who made the Xenoblade series? That's why you see them able to have series like that because they're still kind of together in a certain way. And Monolith Soft, which used to be SquareSoft, where they made all those best games, that Soft went with Nintendo. You know what I mean? And Square went with Enix and became Square Enix. But a lot of people don't know about origins and histories. And I find it funny that they think PlayStation is the home of Final Fantasy, but actually it's Nintendo. And they published it and gave the rights to Square after. I mean, they need to hold it. But interesting stuff, huh? Yeah, all we got to do is just go over here and we'll find The truth right here. So all started in 1987. So they've been around for a while. But yeah, let me know what y'all think of this. Hopefully y'all enjoy Final Fantasy on Xbox. You know me, I like to get the truth out. The series has been alive for quite some time, and I'm still glad to see it going. I'm looking forward to Final Fantasy 19, 20, all of that, 18, you know. Yeah, just let me know what y'all think. I hope that they would make another MMO, but I think they're going to stick with 14 because 11 is still up and going. Good Lord. All right, y'all. Peace. Have a great day.